Hello. Good afternoon.
Everyone looks good? Yep, Adam's there. All right. Itinerary, let me know when we're ready to go.
Anytime.
We're good? Okay.
Yep.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. I am the chairwoman, Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez, and I want to thank my colleagues, Mr. O'Farrell, Mr. Rue, and I don't believe Mr. Lee has joined us, but should be. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Present.
Councilmember Buscaino. Councilmember Rue.
Present.
Councilmember Lee. It appears that we have a quorum of 3, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lee, would you please announce the call-in information for the members of the public wishing to speak on public comment?
Yes. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252. Once again, 1-669-254-5252, and use meeting ID number 161-586-7607. Once again, 161-586-7607, and then press the pound key. Press the pound key again when prompted for the participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Terrific. Thank you very much. We do have a few speakers on the queue. Caller with the last 4 digits, 8408. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi, my name is Peter Clune. I'd like to speak on items 1 through 4, and then additionally the item on laser pointers and general public comment.
Okay, hold on 1 second. There you go. Okay, so you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Starting on items 1 through 4, as we're having a large citywide conversation on sort of reimagining public safety, I think it's also important for you guys to start, seriously examining, the fines and fees that you're willing to impose upon people in the city. The idea of having for-profit companies be a part of, towing and traffic enforcement is really problematic in a sort of a fundamental way. And especially when there's a lot of incentives on the city level to allow these things to increase. 10% cuts of the parking fees, franchise fees, release fees paid to the city. I think instead of just continuing to renew these contracts with official police garages, you really ought to be looking at alternative methods of towing enforcement that don't provide massive financial burdens to anyone who's been towed, especially at a time when we're looking at 20% service cuts for bus service in Metro, making it even more difficult for people to access public transportation, for those people who are able to afford a car, but then are struck with the burden of a tow for whatever reason. It's really sort of problematic to have this continued sort of complete lack of imagination when it comes to finding ways to have public safety and be able to move a car if it needs to be moved, but not have that be something that puts someone into financial difficulty or causes them to lose their car. So as you're moving forward on those items, I'd really encourage you to think about that going forward and find other ways that don't rely on fines and fees to fund the city. Moving on to the laser pointer ban, I find it remarkably abhorrent that you would make First Amendment rights conditional on not even possessing a laser pointer. It's so problematic. I mean, the idea that I couldn't go to a protest with a laser pointer in my pocket, the simple possession of a laser pointer, It's remarkably and clearly unconstitutional. It's also remarkably impressive how you managed to completely omit violence perpetrated by the LAPD against protesters. And if you're so worried about people's eyes and their eyesight, maybe you should look at the recent actions of the LAPD, shooting beanbags into people's faces. Right after the Lakers victory, we had William Gonzalez shot in the eye. His eye exploded. Manuel Barrientos shot in the face, lost 8 teeth and part of his lip. LA Times reported a third person shot in the face, not even a part of any of the celebrations.
Thank you. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 2992, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Hi caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi there, Heather, and items 11 and 13.
Terrific. You've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. So regarding the lasers, item 11, I fully support this. I think that we need to make sure that LAPD officers are protected, and even members of the public who are attending these protests. There's no reason why people need to be pointing lasers when they can be so cause permanent eye damage. So I totally support that amendment. And then just noticed something about items 13, human trafficking. This is a really good reason why the council should not continue to further defund the LAPD. These units are badly needed, and the funding shouldn't come from any council members, slush fund of any sort. It should come from the regular budget, and city council needs to stop pandering to Black Lives Matter and other advocacy groups that want to defund LAPD, because not only do we need these specialized units like human trafficking and gang units and Metro and all these, but just regular patrol. I personally want more officers patrolling my neighborhood, not less. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Next caller with the last 4 digits, 0072, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Hi caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yes, Stephanie Powell, and I'd like to speak on item 13.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay, I am retired LAPD, and I am a victim's advocate for human trafficking. It is my belief that we need to continue with the Human Trafficking Task Force. It's effective, especially if we're able to do it on an overtime basis, because it provides the ability to have more availability of officers on a daily basis, as well as time coverage. And we need it more than ever with COVID, because human trafficking has not slowed down. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Hello?
Thank you so much, caller. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 2970, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Hi caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yes, my name is Audrey, and I wanted to speak on item number 7.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
I'm always shaking my head at city council members who pretend to be at least engaged in the discussion about defunding police, who pretend to be giving some lip service to the people's budget. All of the hoopla that gets created when people talk about defending against defunding LAPD. Do they realize the frequency and huge amount with which LAPD is given new money that is totally outside their budget? Today's $875,000 from HACLA to LAPD, and this will not be reflected in the budget that they have. And so I just don't understand how you can let people think that you're taking money away from LAPD when it's inconsequential entirely. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 1403. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
It's me, Mommy Monica. All items and general public comment.
Okay, you have 2 minutes for your items and 1 minute for general public comment. Go ahead.
Yes, I support the reauthorization of all these police garages. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you to all these police garages over the years. Thank you for towing my car away illegally on Sunset Boulevard. Thank you also for towing my car when a certain council member, while I was attending the Van Nuys meeting of the city council, towed my fucking car claiming there was no voter registration. Thank you for your targeted tows. I fully support your continued criminal behavior in this city. Now get over to Havenhurst and Otsego and tow away that 31-foot monstrosity trailer that they're trying to store drugs in. They're storing drugs. Get it out of there now, and then you can take the drugs out and sell it to your friends. As Monica always says, always pent up your budget. Now we have the task force for trafficking. Start with the goddamn mayor's mansion. What is the deal with the mayor? He's trying to make other men suck other men's cock at the Getty mansion. Starting with putting their tongues down other men's mouths that are not gay. And you look at this guy, Jacobs, ugliest looking Joe, ugliest looking Jew you've ever seen, trying to sexually harass police officers and journalists. And you guys at LAPD are covering it up for years. Years. And there's a lawsuit for a 911 tape regarding one of these incidences. When somebody called 911 and said, help me, the mayor and his homosexuals are trying to make me suck the mayor's cock, and I need help, then the LAPD won't release the tape. Release the fucking tape. Read City Watch Monday night. Dan Gus, the author of the article, New York City pulled his arm to try to get a hug and naturally a cocksock. But Dan said no. If you're the victim of homosexual targeted harassment, call 213-473-7008 and ask for the Commission on Male Rights. Marquise Harris Dawson, victim of police violence, will take your call. Because you guys not only harass police officers with homosexual attacks, you use the
time is up. Your time is up.
Oh, thank you, Mommy. Thank you.
I don't know how this goes on.
Mommy, thank you. Such a nice Mommy. Thank you, Mommy.
Hold on, guys. We're having some connectivity issues. Weird. It wasn't letting me do anything.
All right, give me a moment.
It was weird. It wasn't letting me do anything.
D followed by pound.
Sorry, guys. Give us 1 sec. The Zoom canceled. So
Enter your participant ID followed by you are in the meeting now. There are 4 participants in the meeting. You have been muted by the meeting host and cannot unmute yourself.
Not coming up.
You are unmuted.
Let's move to that item and figure out Zoom later. Sorry, guys. We just got to connect with ITA because the Zoom crashed for the public comment.
All right, I'm reconnected.
Give us 1 moment. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 1403, please press *6 to unmute. Hi, caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
I just want to listen, Mommy.
God, hurt me again.
Next caller with the last 4 digits, 2616, press *6 to unmute yourself. Hi, caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, it's Eric Previn from Studio City, and I'll speak on the items and give a general public comment as well.
Okay, 2 minutes plus a minute for general public comment. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I noticed that they were looking at the idea of the laser pointers and trying to get some kind of an ordinance going to make it illegal to have one in a place where you might be able to use it like that. I just don't really see the city as having any expertise in this kind of thing. It reminds me of here's what you can have at a public demonstration that Mitch Englander was trying to jam through this committee. I just think that the city of Los Angeles has a terrible track record of providing ordinances that address a narrow casting that never really amount to much and just wind up, causing people to be frisked in a way that's uncomfortable. I'm not for it. I don't think I don't know. What kind of nonsense is that? Is what I'm saying. Now, real estate fraud is a great area for this committee to be looking around, obviously, as not just an FBI investigation up and down the corridors and Studio City, where we've seen one property, Sportsman's Lodge, Richard Weintraub, Paul Krikorian, pigging out like crazy on the public's good graces. And then again, in another iteration now with Project Room Key, causing just an amazing kind of schism in our community. But well done. Real estate fraud is front and center, and I think Englander was a part of it at AEG. We talked about it at the council meeting. There's a lot of real estate fraud, and everybody's getting in on it, and we encourage that. Now, the thing we don't encourage, and this is where it comes into the other item, is Rick Jacobs. Now, here's a guy who is very, very close to the mayor, very, very close to the hub, and he raised more money than any human being in the history of the crooked program for raising money called Behested Payments. He took it from like a few million. Even Governor Newsom, who's a greedy bastard, just raised a few million. This guy raised 60-something million from Garcetti's kind of good smile and the Olympics. Everybody get in now, get in early. You're all on board. Unbelievable corruption, and yet we've ignored it as we cart off Jose Huizar, a diligent young man, and Mitch Englander, the son of the lobbyist. I don't know. I think public safety could be achieved with transparency, with asking Councilmember Martinez, your treasured colleague, to restore Friday's meetings so that the Department of Public may participate in these meetings. It's absurd. And I want to thank the cops out there every single day trying to hold the line on crime. It's not easy, and obviously there have been some escalations. Still, it's not a good reason to put a 40-mile-an-hour sign up near my neighborhood on 35-mile-an-hour zone so you can write tickets. That is what we call a bass-backwards maneuver. It's stupid. It's going to hurt someone. In fact, we already hurt someone. Thank you, Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 7006, press star 6 to unmute. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 2970, press star 6 to unmute. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. I think they just left their line on. Okay. Next caller with the last 4 digits, 2992, press star 6 to unmute. I think they also left their line on. Caller, please state your name and the items.
I already spoke.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
That concludes. Okay, great. That concludes general public comment. Colleagues, I'd like to request that we approve items 1 through 6, 8 through 10, and 12 through 13 on consent. And if there are no objections, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Here we go. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rue.
Aye.
Oh, Mr. Lee has also joined the meeting.
And Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Very good. There's 4 aye votes.
Thank you very much. And now that'll bring us to our first item, which is item number 7.
Item 7, Board of Police Commissioners Report relative to Amendment 4 to Memorandum of Agreement between the LAPD and the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles in connection with the Community Safety Partnership Program.
Terrific. And I know we have Deputy Chief Amada Tangarides with us and Joe Lopez. I don't see them.
Hello?
Hi, Amada.
Hello? Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And then Joel's with you?
Yes, Mr. Lopez is here also.
Terrific. If you would, Amada, would you please explain the amendment that is before us for our consideration?
Yes, absolutely. So we have an amendment for the CSP MOA. We had entered into a new MOA in 2015, which was supposed to take us to 2020. At that same time, Urban Institute as well as UCLA were conducting community outreach and doing an assessment on the program. So we asked for an extension in between that time so that we could get the evaluation back and include some of the needs from the community in the new MOA, which just got signed by my bureau
and should be making its way to the police commission and then to council. And that new MOA will be from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2025. So this extension was just to give us time for the assessments to get done, to present the assessment to the LAPD Police Commission, to the Resident Advisory Councils, to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, so that everyone could understand what needed to change, what needed to be added, and that extension gave us 6 months to get that done.
Okay. And so just real quickly, I know with respect to the budget, there are, I believe, resources that HACLA has also included for the purposes of expenditures at the location. Is that part of this agreement as well?
So the agreement is that Housing Authority, like they have the past 9 years, the LAPD pays the base salary of all of the officers. The Housing Authority paid for the promotional incentive, the community programming, so the youth programming and any funds that are spent within the developments for community engagement, and any overtime associated with CSP officers working within the neighborhood engagement areas. So each CSP site funded by HACLA is that same expenditures, the promotion of the officers, the community engagement or community programming, and any overtime associated with it.
How is the overtime determined and approved?
The overtime is approved by the CSP supervisors. Overtime could be anywhere where there's a critical incident that happened, there's a perimeter. It's not overtime that is predetermined. It's overtime based upon the activities within the developments. Sometimes if there's a critical incident, we bring officers in on their day off. We will utilize overtime for that. I monitor the overtime on a monthly basis, as well as Mr. Lopez, and we track all overtime and sign off on all the overtime reports.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And colleagues, were there any questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to recommend that we approve the Board of Police Commissioners report recommendations. And Mr. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Yes. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rue.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Very good. 4 ayes.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Amada.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take item number 11, please.
Very good. Item number 11, City Attorney Report and Ordinance in response to motion Rodriguez-Buscaino relative to amending Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 5.07 to prohibit an individual from possessing or carrying a laser pointer while participating in a demonstration, rally, protest, picket line, or other public assembly.
Thank you. And I know we have, I believe we have Deputy Chief Chris Pitcher on with us.
Yes, ma'am, you do. My apologies. Our video connection isn't working, so I'm going to give my presentation for you via phone. So,
okay.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Deputy Chief Chris Pitcher. I'm the Chief of Detectives for the LAPD. The LAPD is respectfully requesting this committee to consider and expedite an amendment to existing Section 5507 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code that currently bans prohibited items during specified events, i.e. protests, demonstrations, and strikes. This amendment will include now laser pointers and laser-type devices. The LAPD works exceptionally hard to protect and facilitate the First Amendment rights of all to peacefully protest and assemble. However, we have experienced numerous instances of individuals among these groups intentionally using laser-type devices and pointers to attempt to blind and cause harm to officers by pointing them purposely at their eyes while they're engaged in critical duties. Currently, Section 417.25 of the California Penal Code pertains only to the act of using laser device on an individual after the act. There is clearly a demonstrated and critical need to put measures in place before the individuals can be harmed by these devices. So today, this committee and the City of Los Angeles can take a proactive step to ban the possession of laser-type devices during prohibited activities and events, much as it did with similar objects that could easily be used as weapons. Laser-type devices have no legitimate use outside of the business or educational venues. This action by the committee and full council will not only reduce injuries to law enforcement personnel and others, it will also help ensure the future protests, assemblies, and demonstrations that they remain peaceful by protecting the right to assemble and the freedom of expression. With me today, very quickly, I have my colleague, Lieutenant Chris Zine, who will be providing more specific details of laser-type devices and recent crimes and injuries occurring from the use of lasers. And also on this call today, committee members, is Dr. Bradley Richland. He's a practicing optometrist on staff at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. He will also be on the call providing a brief presentation regarding laser devices and eye injuries, and he will be available to answer any of your questions that you may have. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Chris Zine.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Lieutenant Christopher Zine, and I'm going to go over the crimes that have been a result of laser devices. The City of Los Angeles has seen an unprecedented increase in incidents involving laser pointers and laser devices shined in the eyes of people, committing the crimes of battery, and if injuries occur, serious injuries, the crime of assault with a deadly weapon. While the city had a limited number of prior incidents involving laser devices directed mainly at helicopters, we've seen a huge increase in the amount of incidents directed at individuals on the ground, specifically police officers. To put this increase into perspective, year to date, the City of Los Angeles has already had 16 reported incidents, and that resulted in 20 victims. Out of those 24 victims, out of those 24 victims, 20 of them were officers that were injured or disrupted by the laser devices, and 4 were members of the public. This equals a 167% increase compared to the 6 incidents in 2019 year to date. Of the 16 incidents since January 2020, 6 involved shining the laser at an LAPD airship, the helicopter. 6 involved shining the lasers at officers on the ground. And again, the 4 others were members of the public that had lasers directed at them. 5 of those incidents occurred after June 2020, and they involved officers deployed at protests, resulting in a total of 10 officers injured or disrupted by laser devices. 2 additional officers were injured when they had a laser device directed at them while they were operating a patrol vehicle responding to a radio call. Laser devices have become commonly deployed as a weapon that some may seem as passive and harmless, but these laser devices are extremely dangerous, able at minimum to cause temporary flash blindness, and these devices also have the potential at higher outputs to cause permanent sight damage. In regards to the FDA, they're the ones that regulate laser devices and laser pointers. And the FDA states on their website, quote, "The agency is concerned about the misuse of these potentially dangerous devices and their increased availability for purchase on the internet. Laser pointers are misused when they are directed at people or treated as toys. The laser energy from a laser pointer aimed into the eye can be more damaging than staring directly into the sun," end quote. FDA further states, quote, "Never aim or shine a laser pointer at anyone," end quote. This is particularly true for laser devices with higher alpha levels. However, the FDA acknowledges that any laser device or laser pointer is capable of what's called flash blindness. Flash blindness is a temporary loss of vision that occurs when the eye is suddenly exposed to intense light, even from the unintentional sweep of a laser light across a person's eyes. The effects can last several seconds to several minutes. While the risk of eye damage from laser devices is clearly evident, the effects of temporary blindness can be equally dangerous, especially for individuals operating vehicles, helicopters, or for a police officer who is required to make a split-second and critical decision, which requires a constant visual focus on the situation as it unfolds. Now, council members, we'd like to introduce Dr. Bradley Richland, who's the optometrist who's on the call. Dr. Richland?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I was approached by my aunt last week, and she said she needed help finding an eye doctor who can talk about laser pointers and their harm, and I absolutely said, of course, it's a topic that's very important to me, and I really wanted to make sure I could participate in a meaningful way. I have never participated in the public like this before. This is my first event, and it was kind of weird seeing that Zoom bomber, but I can understand the frustration with all the e-meetings people have lately. And I've never looked at municipal codes before in detail. When I looked at 5507, there's a lot of items that are, prohibited at these types of events, and I can't imagine why laser pointers aren't already there. It seems like a common sense thing that they will already be added. Laser pointers are extremely dangerous. I'm a third-generation eye doctor. I grew up in probably a very biased household in terms of eye care health. I was never allowed to have a BB gun, never allowed to have a paintball gun, never allowed to have a laser pointer or a Nerf gun. And it just seems crazy to me that people can possess these and do possess them to harm police officers, accidentally other participants at these protests, or even shine them at helicopters. In some of the research I looked at, the United Nations Convention actually banned blinding laser weapons in 1995. They're banned as a means of method of warfare, and it makes complete sense that they'd be banned at a protest because they're currently being used to blind people. This is something that, I'm an eye doctor. This is what I served my whole life to protect, someone's eyes. I was going to bed last night and I was asking my wife, also an eye doctor, what do you think laser pointers can serve as a purpose? Why would someone have one? And she looked at me, she said, it's easy. There's only 2 reasons. And I said, what? I've done a lot of research. It's not that easy for me. She said, for a presentation and to play with cats. And I never thought about the whole cats one. But yeah, I guess people play with cats with their laser pointers. They're totally unnecessary in the means or at a protest. When I was also asked to talk today, one of my first questions was, have you been provided any laser goggles? And I was told, yes, a lot of the police department have been issued laser protective equipment. And I said, great, let me see the details. Many people are fooled by a lot of safety equipment thinking that they give complete and total protection. Looking at the particular laser shield glasses that LAPD were provided, this NOR laser shield glasses, if you look at the packet insert, it says specifically that they're not intended to be used when looking directly at a beam. This is exactly what people do to harm police officers or others. They shine it in their eyes. So these goggles really don't provide any benefit. I use lasers in my clinic for certain procedures, and never would I tell my staff, a patient, or myself that you can look at the laser. You always have to look away when you use it. You close your eyes when you fire the laser, and we're wearing protective goggles that are meant for those lasers that are probably very, very much more expensive than the ones that are being given to LAPD, and I still don't trust them. I close my eyes every time I fire that laser. Also, the goggles do not allow officers to wear other eye protection or other corrective lenses, so they cannot wear their sunglasses, they can't wear any other things, they can only wear these goggles, which really don't provide that much true benefit. In the packet insert, it said that they're only intended to give protection against accidental exposure to the radiation, and that if there's any type of glare coming at you, you're supposed to look away. They're not a foolproof way to protect the officers, and it makes me sad because I want them to be protected. I want the general public to be protected. It's our eyesight. I argue it's the most important sense we have. Why are lasers so dangerous? Something that people often forget that I tell my patients, lasers are just as dangerous in the dark as they are in the light. It doesn't matter if it's a protest during the day or at nighttime, that laser is equally effective and equally dangerous. I would argue that the daytime is more dangerous because people might not see where they're shining it, and they could really blind anyone. I've had patients who are blinded. I wouldn't say they've completely blinded themselves where they're walking around with a cane, but they've lost sight. I've had patients that have had accidental exposure, and they've had accidents because of it. this flash blindness, if anyone's ever had a really bright flash from a light bulb, from a camera, we know what it is. You can't see for a moment. When you look directly at something, you cannot see what you're looking at. You have to look off to the side. I can imagine that anyone in the public who's driving, police officers in a car, if they see a laser, every single person on this phone call is going to do the same exact thing. You're going to look away and close your eyes. So it's dangerous, to say the least, not just to the eyes, but also to anyone operating any motor vehicles or anything that can cause secondary harm. Also, laser light is, I think everyone's intrigued by lasers because it's unlike a flashlight. Doesn't matter how far you're pointing it, that laser beam is a very small, intense spot, and that's why they're so dangerous to the eye. Your macula that you use to see is a very small part of your overall retina, and when you look at something, you're going to blind yourself, and if you look at that laser light, you're going to blind yourself by looking at it. It literally burns the eye. Another thing that I always have to tell my patients and parents of children using laser pointers, they always ask me, I always get questions about BB guns and laser pointers and Nerf guns and everything I wasn't allowed to have as a kid that I wish I did. I always say to them, listen, the laser pointers you think you're buying are not always what they think they are. When you buy sunglasses, they're not always what you think they are. They're unregulated. When you buy sunglasses, you're not always getting full UV exposure protection. Like laser pointers, you think you're buying one laser pointer, you might be getting a stronger one. People are buying them with good intent, but they might not realize that what they have is stronger than what they meant to purchase. In 2018, the American Academy of Ophthalmology had a paper that went out titled, "Is Your Laser Pointer as Dangerous Enough to Cause Eye Injury?" And this was an officer at the FDA Center for Devices and Radiological Health, and they said, not only do sometimes these lack labels, but have inaccurate labels. And in their study, 60% of the sampled laser pointers that the FDA tested were overpowered compared to what the label said. This uncertainty, people might think this isn't a harmful laser, it's not going to really cause that much damage. You will really blind someone. I spent my career, I've spent all my studies, all my time protecting people's vision, and this seems counterintuitive that it wasn't already included in 5507. I hope that helps add a little bit of importance to why this should be banned at a protest. My goal isn't that everyone is frisked. My goal isn't that everyone has their First Amendment right, taken away from them. My only goal is that there should be no logical, common sense reason to carry a laser pointer at a protest other than to blind someone, and that's horrible. So unless they're giving a presentation or playing with their cat, I cannot see another reason to use a laser pointer, and especially not have it one present at a protest or assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Right. So in closing, again, with the Los Angeles Police Permit, we're requesting that amendment. The intent of 55.07 is to protect all individuals attending or participating in any demonstration, rally, protest, picket line, or public assembly. Dangers of laser pointers and laser devices are clear, and amending this legislation, or the municipal code, will further contribute to ensuring everyone's safety at these types of events and allow them to exercise their First Amendment rights while also protecting all those present, including first responders.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pitcher and Mr. Brennan. We couldn't help but notice your Dodger mask. Hopeful that it doesn't include any use of a laser. But I just want to make sure, colleagues, if there's any questions. Colleagues, did you have any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to recommend that we adopt the draft ordinance. And Mr. Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Absolutely. Aye.
Councilmember Rue.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Very good. 4 ayes.
Thank you very much. None, that brings us to item 14, please.
Item 14, sale report and communication from the mayor relative to the fiscal year 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. This matter has also been referred to the Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 Recovery and Neighborhood Investment.
Thank you, colleagues. And I'd like to invite the CAO to give us an overview on the report that is before us.
Hi, this is Elaine Dong from the Office of CAO. So the report before you is the Mayor's Office of Public Safety request of authority to accept a grant in the amount of $6.4 million from the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Administration for the fiscal year 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. And the period is from January 20th, 2020 through January 2022. In regards to the allocation, a total of $775,970 will be budgeted to the Los Angeles World Airports, and about $2 million will be to the fire department, and 2.5 will be allocated to the police department. And for management and administration, it will be a total of $511,885. And for the emergency management department, they'll be allocated a total amount of $587,889. The Mayor's Office Public Safety staff is also on the line if there's any questions regards to the grant.
Thank you very much. And so I know, Mr. Brennan, I know you're on for the conversation with respect to LAPD. There's a $2.5 million allocation associated with this grant that is for sworn overtime. Could you provide an update, please, on the deployment at the testing sites and the shelters with respect to LAPD, and is there any enforcement related to, or is there any activity and overtime associated directly with coronavirus and COVID-19?
Good afternoon. I'm Sam Brennan. I am from Fiscal Group at the LAPD. The department mobilized quickly when COVID happened and rolled out to shelters, to a variety of tasks that were needed to be done that weren't being taken care of or not met by other entities within the government, county, state, federal. We picked up and we ran with it. When we initially started this, our overtime costs were much more substantial than they are now. We had one pay period back in May where we ran up actually close to $750,000 in overtime in that one pay period. We had days where we ran $70,000 in overtime. As of our last run that we have put through, we are down to $35,000 worth of overtime. So we are continually monitoring with the budget cutbacks that have happened. The chief has basically eliminated all non-essential overtime. So the overtime that we're working right now mostly is being banked if necessary. But we have definitely cut back and are continuing to monitor those. The activities that we've really ran up with the overtime was the ambassador program, was the shelters. As the shelters for individuals experiencing homeless were open, the LAPD was going out with buses to pick people up and take them to the shelters. So that was where a lot of costs for the overtime was happening. And as those functions have changed, as the city has pulled back on certain things, we have reduced that as well. We have also gone up with our staffing of the shelters with contract security. So it's not LAPD officers who are there anymore. It's contract security who is there to manage the situation.
So now then, if there are reductions now going forward with respect to overtime use, what is the plan for spending this funding going forward?
As we've as it was presented to us, looking at the overtime, when we had the initial discussions, we were still in the high expenditure areas. Going forward, we would like to look at the ability to take this from just being for overtime to meet expenditures that are ongoing, especially in the area of contract security, because that continues to be one of our highest expenditures, as well as personal protective equipment and the reconstitution plan that we need to go forward to reopen our facilities and meet with the public, as well as looking at how we can balance that across making sure that our interactions with the public are safe.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much. I do believe we have someone here from the mayor's office as well.
That's correct. My name is Gabriela Hasso, and I'm the Director of Grants and Finance, and to answer any questions you might have.
Sure. The only question that I had was with respect to the management and administration costs associated with this. There's $511,000 that's been allocated, approximately 8% of the grant. Is that a normal amount for management and administration of a grant of this size?
Sure. So the grant permitted for a 10% allocation towards management and administration, and we actually only took 8%. And that is standard for our office to administer a grant. That goes towards salary of both the grant specialist, the accounting team, and our attorneys for our contract specialists. So that goes towards the administration of the grant for 3 positions throughout the entire performance period of the grant. The grant specialists monitor the grant and ensure that we're complying with the grant requirements, making sure that we're submitting all the reporting requirements. The accounting team reviews all the reimbursement packets, do the drawdowns for the grant to issue payment, and they also do the monitoring. And the contract specialists, which are the attorneys, they do all the procurements and the contract administration. So that is just a standard amount that we usually do. We usually ask for and distribute in salaries for M&A.
Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, were there any other questions? I lost Mr. Rue. I don't see him. Okay. Nope, seeing none. Colleagues, I'd like to recommend that we approve the CAO's recommendation. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Rue? Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Looks like we've lost Mr. Rue.
Terrific. And so I do believe that clears the desk, but just a couple of things. Tom, I have to say that mask is pretty epic. And I'm so glad it's in compliance with the new rules that we've just recently adopted and we'll be moving forward with. So yes, in the spirit of what will inevitably cause many of us a lot of heartburn this evening, go Dodgers. And I want, yeah, I know, because I can't take another heartbreak. I just can't. But also, speaking of heartbreak, we do have some bittersweet news, and I want to congratulate Debra Gonzalez. We just learned that she is going to be retiring and leaving us after her service for 20 years on the Public Safety Committee, being staffed to the Public Safety Committee. I want to thank you so much for your service to the City of Los Angeles, for your dedication and service to this work here at on this committee. And I know we still have you for just a moment longer, but I didn't want to miss an opportunity to say thank you so very much for your service. You're greatly appreciated, and you know, you will be missed. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm talking to myself over here. Madam Chair. That's very kind. Yes, I've had a wonderful career with the City Attorney's Office for actually over 36 years, close to 37. But 20 of those years I've staffed the Public Safety Committee, and I have, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but it's the best committee of the council because you deal with the most difficult issues and very important issues. And I appreciate all of you, and I will be keeping an eye on all of you. So, and yes, go Dodgers.
Thank you, Debra. Thank you so much. All right, colleagues. Well, with that, I want to thank you all very much. And, Mitch, did you have...
Yeah, just thank you, Madam Chair, for letting us know that Ms. Gonzalez is retiring. And so, Debra, thank you for your quiet stewardship, steady professionalism, guiding us through the committee. I know I've been on this committee since the beginning, so almost 7.5 years now. So it's been a pleasure, and thank you for your quiet, steady guidance all these years. Way beyond me coming up on the scene. The city is better off because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. And so with that, colleagues, I want to thank you all very much. I know we will be on pins and needles tonight, and our meeting is adjourned. Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.